The top stories in the papers right now, and we're starting with Daily Sun. Major headline: tension in APC, ADC, NDC, PDP as membership list submission ends. NDC zeroes in on Obi Kwankwaso ticket. Gunmen kill police, 14 others abduct 5 in Plateau communities. IPOP holds Biafra Heroes Remembrance Day May 30th. JAM stakeholders to decide 2026 admission guidelines today. We have top banks slash loans by 25% amid rising risk, and escalating vandalism, diesel theft threaten 3 trillion naira telecom assets. MTN spends 887 million naira on security in the first quarter. What story do we have?
Okay, so I have the very sad story because this breaks my heart. I'll take it from the National Publicity Secretary of the Bayram Youth Mothers Association, Yang Tengwong. He was reacting again to the recent killing that happened over the weekend into Sunday yesterday in Plateau Jos. Even despite, according to him, let me take his words. He said he expressed concern over the worsening security situation in Barikin Ladi despite heavy presence of security personnel and checkpoints in the area. So the story itself is that a coordinated and simultaneous attacks, Moradin armed men, attacked the Barikin Ladi community, the Riyonkanam community, Panshkin local government area of Plateau State over the weekend. No fewer than 16 persons, including a policeman, were killed. 5 others were abducted. And, this came after 13 people were already killed in Ngba Zongo area of Kwali, Basa local government. Killings in Barikin Ladi, like I said, started Wednesday over the Inding Sesut attack, and then continued on Saturday. 10 people were killed, including a police officer. 6 people were abducted, and it started on Saturday evening, escalated on Sunday morning, and it was carried out by allegedly carried out by heavily armed gunmen in the 4 communities. Despite the presence of our security agencies, I think our politicians need to do better. We cannot continue to allow this happen. I don't know what the governor is doing. I don't know who is. But if you need to call names, make arrests, do that. But you can't make points with people's lives. That's the problem I have. You can't continue to score points with people's lives.
I don't even know what's happening anymore.
I have the JAM stakeholders to decide 2026 admission guidelines today. And the guidelines for the 2026, excuse me, the guidelines for the 2026 admission exercise into all tertiary institutions in Nigeria will be considered and adopted today, Monday. And the spokesperson of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAM, Dr. Fabian Benjamin, said the decision will be adopted at the 2026 JAM policy meeting, which will be chaired by the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa. He also said that heads of tertiary institutions, including vice-chancellors, rectors, provosts, as well as head of agencies and parastatals under the Federal Ministry of Education, are expected to participate in the meeting. And of course, this meeting also told us that nearly 2 million candidates participated in the 2026 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination. Even me, I'm part of the 2 million. Okay. 243. I had 243 in JAM. So I passed no be small because I read. So meanwhile, the Deputy Minister of Education of Sierra Leone, Mr. Suraj Aziz Kamara, alongside 2 other Vice-Chancellors from Sierra Leone, Professor Edwin, the Vice-Chancellor of NS Bako University, and the Vice-Chancellor of Nejala University, they are here in Nigeria to understudy Joint Admission and Matriculation Board and Central Admission Process System. So the Sierra Leoneans came in to understudy our JAM, and even the expatriates are saying that for Sierra Leone to have, the expatriates are saying that for them to have come in is because they needed a quick intervention to their own admission process too. And they see that Nigeria is giving the structure where they can come to learn. That so anybody clamoring, he added that anybody saying that they should scrap JAM, maybe they should get a view of what the outside world education system looks like. That JAM is actually doing a good job for them to leave Sierra Leone to come and understudy how JAM does their admission processes. So
that's how the story that our INEC, the same INEC would call out of this.
So because they want to do something like that in Sierra Leone. And so the thing that is like the things we say we don't want, other people appreciate it. So what's going on?
I agree. I think we just need to improve on things.
You have a story?
Yes, I took a story inside the paper. It says tension rises in the Eboyi community over mining operations. We have to look into this. It said tension has risen in Ohaku community, Undufu Alike Uko, in Uko local government area of Eboyi State. According to them, They said a dispute over mining activities in the area following accusation and counter-accusation between the members representing Ikwo Eza South Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives, Honorable Chinedu Oga, and a mining company and the state government. Now, they are accusing the company, they mentioned the company's name, First Patriots, of forceful displacement of residents and then intimidation of locals with the aid of security operatives. They also accuse the company of not paying compensation to the locals of the land that they actually took over. The lawmaker said armed police officers, soldiers, and even civil defense personnel allegedly invaded the community and forced residents out of their houses. Now, they said over 50 people were displaced, and now they are soughting refuge in other people's homes. Now, they threatened to petition the federal government for the withdrawal of the company's mining lease. However, the director of First Patriot has responded, Obi Alio. He denied the accusations. Wow. He insisted that the company operates within the law and has fulfilled all obligations to host communities through community development agreements, the CDAs. No. We are seeing another crisis arising from this. So the federal government has, yes, they have to, exactly, they have to involve themselves in this, yes.
Let me take this story, escalating vandalism. They say worsening telecom services being experienced by subscribers across the country may not end soon, as operators are currently battling rising vandalism, diesel theft, fiber cuts, and other challenges threatening Nigeria's 3 trillion communication assets. I mean, a lot of us have been complaining, you know, not recently, it's been going on for a few months now. So they're saying that it's because some people are badly behaved. First of all, MTN talks about how much it spends, you know, how much it spends in a quarter, about 887 million on security just in the first quarter of this year. Wow. So far, in order to protect its critical installation. And then Airtel as well, you know, they spend so much money. Some of the questions with MTN that, you know, they were asked is, do they think this has anything to do with the xenophobic attacks happening or threats happening in South Africa? But they didn't answer to that. And I think it's much more than that. You know, they're saying that some of the things that has happened over time, people are, you know, they are stealing their diesel. Fiber cuts is what they call it, you know. Sorry, I put down all these things here and I don't know. Anyway, the Association of Licensed Telecommunications Operators of Nigeria, that's ALTON, recorded 19,384 fiber cuts between January and August 2025. Then there was 3,241 cases of equipment theft and more than 19,000 denial of access incidents affecting telecom infrastructure nationwide. So these are the things that they are dealing with, and whether we like it or not, it would definitely affect services. And what's happening with the security measures that they put there? Aren't there CCTV cameras to show us who these thieves are, what's happening? When they catch them, what do they do with them? You know, we're still reviewing the papers, and the next paper is Vanguard. Major headline: 2027 presidency. Jonathan's declaration sparks stir. Breweries defy economic hardship, record sharp rise in revenue. Petrolon Energy ramps up Dose Island production by 2,800 BPD. High jet A1 price, aircraft pilots, engineers worry over flight safety jobs. You might have a story.
Yes, I have the National Association of Aircraft Pilots and Engineers, NAPI. You know, that body is in charge of, you know, pilots and all of that. And they were decrying the ongoing Jet A1 crisis that, according to them, could compromise the safety and result in job losses in air transport sector if not urgently addressed. They lamented that, you know, because of this crisis, flights are disrupted, schedules are, you know, disrupted as well, and pilots and engineers are now forced to work extended hours. So if they have to wait for some hours to get, you know, the product because they needed to fly, the engineers are not, you know, scheduled to exchange duties. They are extended over time, and which this is a major flight risk. When they are overworked and tired, they're not supposed to fly when they are fatigued. Yeah. And so this is not safe. According to the national president of NAPI, Captain Bumi Ginde, he says that, you know, the federal government, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, the Nigerian Midstream Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, and fuel suppliers. He says they should treat this matter with all urgency. And I cannot see this matter and not see the US-Iran war affecting things. But I hope that we can fully rely on our own local refinery, which we are blessed. Which we are blessed.
Yes, we are.
We are blessed
He
to
said
have
that
it.
this body is the body mandated to protect the welfare and professional interest of pilots and engineers in Nigeria, and they are doing what they can to, call the authorities to, to respond. But I think importation is why we will have scarcity. If we rely fully on our blessed
let me take this story. It's part of the story that almost in response, or maybe this story went ahead of the last story I took on Pause Telecommunication Service, and they were talking of explaining why we're having these poor services because of vandalism. But the federal government has warned telecom operators to improve service quality or face regulatory sanctions, saying recent reforms have stabilized the sector and removed excuses for poor network performance. This is the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy. He said that connectivity gaps were largely structural, driven by years of underinvestment and constraints on operators. He says government had tackled problems through long-term infrastructure planning, immediate sector stabilization measures aimed at restoring sustainability and investor confidence. He said long-term reforms are focused on expanding infrastructure through new fiber deployments and tower rollout initiatives. So I guess federal government is saying you have no excuse. What they see as the problem is that you are not investing enough in the sector, and that's why we have all these issues. And if it's access to funds, the minister also said that funding has been secured with support from World Bank for Project Bridge, alongside additional investment in satellite capacity to boost nationwide coverage. So according to government, they don't think you have telecommunications has any excuse for what we're facing recently.
Okay.
What do you have?
Okay. I have alleged minor detention over the week. Over the weekend, there was this popular influencer who came and said he visited the Kirikiri Correctional Center and found a minor. So the report now says that Lagos insists that the suspect is adult and faced trial for robbery. And the Lagos State government has dismissed claims circulating in a viral video alleging the unlawful detention of a minor, Michael Adekunle, at the Kirikiri Custodial Center, describing the narrative as misleading and an attempt to generate public sympathy. The boy, the reaction followed the video by the social media influencer Seeking, who claimed that during a visit to the facility that the detainee said he was 14 years old as at the time he was arrested in 2023, but was recorded by the police as 18. So the suspect, the influencer also alleged that the suspect was made to adopt the name Michael Adebiyi instead of Michael Adekunle. However, the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Lagos State, Mr. Lawal Pedro San, clarified that the individual in custody is Michael Adebiyi, who was 18 years old as at the time of his arrest. And Pedro said Adebiyi was arrested in 2022 alongside two others, Adedeji Kabiru and Adekunle Waris, over alleged armed robbery. He also explained that the Ministry of Justice received the case file in January, and of course, out of all of the evidence that there was, the review established a prima facie case against Adebiyi and Kabiru for conspiracy, and the third person that they couldn't establish any link, that he was recommended for discharge because after investigation failed to link him to the general offenses. So the Attorney General is trying to clarify what Seeking said, that the boy was a minor, that no, when the case file came, that he was 18.
So I'd like to know whether the influencer was able to see his certificate before he made that allegation, because I have seen where detainees create stories that will favor them. They get wiser in custody.
That's why the Attorney General is saying he's just trying to draw public sympathy because, of course, a minor.
The Attorney General knows that you would never put a detainee that is a minor in such a facility. So if he's in that facility, he must have been certified. I wish the influencer has his facts together.
All right, so we might experience another industrial strike May 21st. As civil servants reject hidden 40% pay formula. Now, they said the fresh industrial tension is brewing in the Federal Public Service as the Joint National Public Service Negotiating Council has accused the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commissions of secretly manipulating the implementation of the newly approved 40% peculiar allowance for federal workers. Now, in their letter dated May 6, 2026, the National Chairman and Secretary Trade Union side, Benjamin Unyato and Olowoyo Benga, respectively condemned what they described as a nonchalant attitude of the Commission in handling the allowance. Now, according to them, they're saying that the JNPSNC, the 40% peculiar allowance ought to be calculated based on the newly approved 70,000 naira national minimum wage as provided in the National Minimum Wage Act 2024. So they are alleging that the computation released by the Commission was shrouded in complexity, secrecy, and suspicion. So we have to investigate properly and make sure that we calculate appropriately, because now they are threatening that come May 21st, they might go on strike.
Wow. Okay. Let's move on to the next paper. Nigerian Tribune, major headline, drama as Fubara appears before APC screening panel. Tinubu's Southwest lawmakers celebrate fast surety at 100. POS transactions set to hit 8.96 trillion naira in May as CBN intensifies cashless drive. Jet A1 crisis, pilots, engineers raise alarm over aviation safety in Nigeria. We have NMPCL should stop committing state resources to refineries rehabilitation, says experts are saying. NECA expresses concern over new refinery deal. We have the health story. Pathologist warns of rising global legal risks in mishandling surgical tissues. Very important story there. I hope someone took that. And First Holdco 6 shareholders approval on 1 trillion naira capital base in bold balance sheet fortification. What story did we take in the
Okay, I have the
Tribune?
medical story.
Yes,
so,
please.
Speaking at the 35th National Executive Council meeting of the National Association of Government General Medical and Dental Practitioners, the Nigerian pathologist Mustafa Ajani, who is a consultant pathologist at and head of Department of Pathology at the University College Ibadan, was talking about, he gave a remark, a lecture titled Medical Legal Implications in Handling of Surgical Samples and Tissues. And he says that this contributes, or the specimen mismanagement or management is contributing to preventable death and cancer misdiagnosis, and contributing, of course, to legal disputes across healthcare system worldwide. And he says that only God knows who kills more between those carrying guns and those called doctors because of our actions and inactions. Yeah. He said, underscoring the life and death consequences of medical negligence, he says every tissue removed during surgeries, regardless of how clinically harmless it appears, should undergo histological examination to establish a definitive diagnosis and guide treatment decisions. And he warned that the failure to properly preserve and analyze tissues can permanently eliminate testing, targeted therapies, and future genetic investigations. Of course, he highlighted in cancer treatments how this contributes to modern oncology, increasing dependence on molecular and a lot of English. Well, the cocoa of the summary of the English is that, misdiagnosis can be very, in fact, it's more damaging than when you carry gun and weapon, and it's unchecked largely in around the world, not just Nigeria. Not just Nigeria. Giving this paper as a Nigerian professor, and so we'll focus more here, and as we see how this happens here.
That is so true. The stories that we've heard.
Forgetting scissors in somebody, lackadaisical attitude, and all of it. And here, Governor of Anambra is saying that's why they are clamping down on fake pastors. And Anambra Governor Charles Soludo has explained the rationale behind the crackdown on fake pastors in the state. According to him, the move targets social reformation and protecting vulnerable residents from religious exploitation. Soludo spoke on Sunday at St. Patrick's Cathedral during the all-night day of the Catholic Diocese in Awka. The Anambra Governor said several suspected fake pastors have been arrested and were already in custody, assisting investigators with useful information. He said the action is part of our reformation mission to build a new Anambra free from deception and social vices. We remain committed to keeping the state clean and clear of practices that weaken our social values, he said. So there are a lot of things, but I think it's good because we have some Western countries that don't even allow it. But Nigeria, so much problem, so much churches, yet little solution.
Thank you, Dami. We've come to the end of newspaper review, but let me quickly take this story. I think it's important. Is NNPCL has been urged to stop committing the resources of the state to rehabilitation of the comatose nation's refinery. This was on the back of the MOU with 2 Chinese firms that NNPCL announced with Sanjiang Chemical Company Limited and Xinjiang Fuzhou Industrial. Yes, they're saying, see, this new deal by NNPCL recalling, you know, it's a problem. We have put monies into these moribund refineries for too long. They're recalling 2021 to date, whopping $3.5 billion, so, you know, that we have spent, and nothing has come out of Port Harcourt, Warri, or Kaduna refineries. Nothing, no tangible results, so, you know, since then. And NECA, the DG of NECA, is saying that enough of the MOU governance and failed revamps on Port Harcourt and other refineries. So what they're saying is they're calling for privatization and concession of the refineries, insisting governance reforms must precede further rehabilitation projects. And I agree with that. I think it was just important to put that out there. Yeah, thank you, ladies.